find some sort of harmony and balance.
Ladies and gentlemen, what's up? This is BC. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast / video / talk. Two things I want to talk about today with you specifically, and I want to cite some personal examples because I think they'll be relatable to everybody, and it's something that has to be of utmost importance in your life, and that's adaptability and gratitude, okay? Let's talk about gratitude first. It's very easy to get onto this train where we start complaining and pointing the finger and looking outside of ourselves, comparing with where we're at and what we're doing, and then getting caught up in this like negative headspace. I always bring it back to gratitude because either one, right? If I choose to be grateful or I choose to bitch and complain and be the victim, you can choose either path, right? As the human being, that's open to you. And there's really no, hey, this is the right answer, this is the wrong answer. What we need to decide on, and this is something I taught people a long time ago, is to say, if I choose either route, which one takes me closer to where I want to go, right? And then the answer becomes easy to say, well, gratitude, because when you really put yourself in the mode of being grateful, and again, not from a cheesy standpoint, but genuinely doing it and having it as a daily practice, you feel better, you're more optimistic, you have more enthusiasm for life, and everything changes for the better. Compared to looking at the average person in the world who has more of a victim mentality, complain, right? And it's more of like this negative cycle. We know what that equals with the average person's existence, and it's not something good. It's not something pretty. So I would invite everybody to understand this because, man, you have so many opportunities to complain and not be grateful. I mean, shit, look at me in calisthenics. I'm frustrated as shit right now. I'll be 2 years in the end of November this year. So it's been like a year and a half or more. And in my mind, I'm like, fuck, there's certain things that I progressed so well, certain moves that I feel like, man, maybe I should be more advanced, right? And I have my little moments where I'll pout, small moments, but at the end of the day, I'm still working extremely hard. I'm definitely not going to quit, but I always come back to a position of gratitude and say, look, I need to acknowledge the progress that I have made and the fact that I've been so dedicated, because there's no denying that I've made tremendous gains and gotten a lot stronger and done a lot better, right? If anything, this is an invitation for me to be more measured in my approach. Take a look, what can I make better? What can I improve even more? Can I adjust this? Can I adjust that? And you become almost like, it's a way of like self-assessing even deeper because I'm in that mode of gratitude. So when I'm grateful and I step away from the complaining and I get more in the mode and feeling of gratitude, now it directs my mind towards possible solutions and looking in the right place and approaching it from the right perspective, be that both logically and emotionally, versus the other way. Man, if you complain and you do all this stuff, nothing happens and nothing changes, man. So believe me, whether it's business, right? I mean, you guys know, if you follow me and you still follow me, in regards to my platforms, they have been fucking destroyed. I would have just grounds to complain because my platforms were unjustly taken away from me. Censored on YouTube, demonetized, where I had to go to a new channel and abandon a channel with 200,000 followers, right? Facebook deleted all that. But do you see me complaining? You may hear me a couple times a year bring up that I was censored, but ask yourself this, whether you like me or not, am I really complaining about it though? No. And I keep doing what I'm doing. I keep making these videos and I keep putting stuff out. Why? Because this is what I do, regardless of all that other stuff. If anything, it gave me a good lesson, right? Like, hey, I need to look more into running ads and doing that kind of stuff. And it in a way forced the evolution because in my mind, I couldn't complain. I had to be grateful for the platforms that I had created and all the work that I had put in and who I had become in the process. So now it's about using those tools at my disposal in my development to allow me to grow and do better and make the adjustment. Because tied into this, which we'll get into here in a minute, is your adaptability, which ties in greatly with this last point that I said. But before we wrap it up, and we put a bow on this first point of gratitude, ask yourself this, is it a daily practice for you? Because again, it's become corny. Just be grateful. I'm not talking about you just be grateful when I tell you. Make it a daily practice and ritual and routine for yourself to acknowledge it, to write it down, to see the benefits of something, to look at the positive light of a situation, right? All that stuff is tied in with gratitude, right? Giving thanks to yourself, if you believe in a creator, whatever it is, right? All these things done on a daily basis from an emotional standpoint and a logical standpoint and a personal fulfillment standpoint, take you in the right direction to make you more productive and be a more worthy vessel yourself of creation, which is what you want. You want to create your reality. You want to create what you want. And tuning into these emotions and states of being and states of mind allow you and grant you more access to that at a higher level. Okay. So let's talk about adaptability too. Well, I brought up the censorship. I need to adapt. I can't just sit here and complain and not make any adjustments. Now, if I'm going to walk people through a mistake of mine, it was that. I wasn't as proactive as I should have been with the censorship, because had I back then immediately started putting money into ads and doing other stuff, the blow of that would have been lessened compared to where we're at now. Where, yeah, I'm running ads and doing my thing, but because my organic reach is like 99% throttled, it makes it a lot more challenging. I'm almost like you guys in the sense that I'm a new influencer in a way where, yeah, I have a brand, but I don't have the numbers to back it up anymore on some of these newer platforms because they were shunned and demonetized and deleted, and I had to start over and you're shadow banned, and I'm working against the system, right? So that would have been, in retrospect, a mistake that I can say, and a lack of adjustment on my part was being much more proactive with the censorship, right? So that's where I, in a sense, temporarily was set back too much and temporarily failed when it came to adaptability because, man, I messed up. Take a look back in my career. Transitioning from being a professional athlete to getting into real estate took a tremendous amount of adaptability, and I had to adapt. I couldn't sit there and pout and complain or only look. And this is a big part of adaptability that I want to talk to you guys about. When we need to adapt to something, when we want to adapt to something, we tend to only look at one side of it typically, which is what I lack, what my weaknesses are, why I can't do it, why it's going to be hard. Even the questions that people phrase when they ask me for help, I can tell are in that mind state of, you know what I mean? I know it's going to be hard because I can't do it. It's difficult. Instead of looking at, hey, what do I bring to the table, right? So if I'm going to make an adaptation, I'm going to make a change. Instead of looking at it from the perspective of negative, lacking, weakness, right? Why we can't, how about we look at the opposite side of the coin? And at the very least, consider both, because those are both valid concepts that we can play with, both. So again, when we start looking at it from that perspective, it's like, okay, now the adaptation and me adapting is like, okay, like this may be difficult and may be challenging, but okay, it can be done. We look at it in a much more positive and optimistic and realistic light versus just why we can't do it. So that in itself flips the switch when it comes to adaptability. But the same thing is, you need to always keep in your mind that adapting is 24/7, 365. We never just hit one mode and coast ever in life. Your workouts will have to adapt. Your diet, right? With small tweaks at least, again, we'll have to adapt because too much of one thing is bad. We've heard reports of people dying from drinking too much water, right? Those are extreme examples, but everything needs to have an adaptation, your way of thinking, the education, right? The material that you're consuming eventually has to adjust. I don't read now and study the same things that I did 10 years ago. I might recap on some stuff, but I've evolved and changed. So I've adapted to take the higher level knowledge and things that I need based on where I'm at now, right? So everything about you has to adapt. Your body, right? We adapt to the environment all the time. This dynamic is present 24/7. The more you tap into it and realize it and say, okay, I am adapting all the time, therefore I need to adapt all the time, right? Look at the people who follow me from sales and real estate. The market is constantly changing and you have to adapt to it proactively, not reactively, because that's one of the biggest things that I can give you as well when it comes to adaptation is adapt from a proactive standpoint as much as possible versus reactive. Now, can we do that 100%? Probably not, because certain things like the evil C word from 3 years ago slap you in the face and nobody saw that coming. With that said, the vast majority of what we deal with in life, you can adapt to proactively if you're switched on, if you're aware, if you're focused, and if you're really paying attention to the matters at hand. And that's really what it's about. So if you follow me and you're a business person, well, one way to adapt is to get help, right? Hire me as a coach, hire somebody else as a coach, right? Upgrade this, invest into your business, do this, do that, open up a new location. I mean, there's so much you can do to adapt, right? We adapted. There was 2 spaces here that I had in Miami. We weren't utilizing the other one as much. We weren't doing as much live events. So I ended up just keeping this one office and letting go of the other one. No big deal. I adapted. right? Same thing with my coaching program. I evolved it, made it better, made it more thorough. We're adding AI technology into it now to facilitate the experience of the student and make it better. I repackaged it, rebranded it, added more, made it better, raised the price. I adapted to the market, right? Same thing with me wanting to grow my agent attraction business. I joined a new brokerage and I adapted to the changing dynamics of the real estate market and the economy, right? Same thing with my real estate investments. Like everything, I'm always adapting and moving and shaking. Are you doing the same? Because where we stagnate, we die. There's no stagnant state in the universe. The universe is dynamic. We're either growing or we're dying. Getting better, getting worse, right? We're not getting younger, we're getting older every day, right? It's dynamic. It's never the same. Every moment that goes by, you're a second older, right? That's just the way it is. So understand that the gratitude and also the adaptability are two very powerful forces. And when you're always engaged in them and you're always doing really well and focused on them and saying, hey, I'm grateful, but I'm also adapting all the time. These are two components of this life dynamic that when you tap into them more, you utilize them more, you're focused on them more, you're more aware of them, you start to make massive changes. Again, everywhere in life, not in just one area. And that's why I always preach to you guys with everything that I teach. And I do my best to give the most random and thorough examples, because I don't want you to just look at me as a real estate agent or somebody who just talks about sales or motivation or whatever. The vast majority of what I've been teaching on these platforms for 10 years now is universally applicable if you see it that way and you adapt it as such. Okay, so with that said, we'll wrap it up here. Appreciate you guys. We're shooting this on a Friday. Have a good weekend, be productive, and we'll see you on the next episode. Peace.